if they do come in late, it's okay because like we can. Oh, I should turn. All right, everybody. Yeah, let's kick it off. Pink Lady Q in the chat. Welcome. From local 479. I was just down there not that long ago. I got a jacket and it's like the coolest thing I've ever worn in my life. I want to wear it all the time. I'm not wearing it right now, which sounds kind of hypocritical of what I just said, but it's the truth. Welcome everybody to another IATSE gameworkers stream. I would love to introduce to you my guest this week. We have Marissa, who's been on a few times before, and we also have Jonas, who is the communications director for the IATSE, but I'll let them introduce themselves. Marissa, would you like to say hello? Oh, wait, hold on. Okay, now your audio's good. Okay.
Okay, cool.
You're good now.
Yay. Nice. All right. Yeah, I'm Marissa. I am on the advisory council with the game workers from IATSE, and I'm also an executive board member at the Animation Guild, as well as a storyboard artist in TV. But before I switched into that, I worked in games as a cinematic artist and an animator for a couple of years. And that's why I'm really excited to help game workers get the same rights that animation workers have and other people in the entertainment industry. Oh, yep, that's me.
Awesome. Glad to have you again, Marissa. And Jonas, you're a fresh new face on this channel. Would you like to say hello?
Absolutely. Hey, everybody. I'm Jonas Loeb. I'm IATSE's International Director of Communications. I, kind of came up through the crafts a bit. I am not a game worker myself, though I did audio and I still do a lot of recording when I can. Though these days I'm more of a digital organizer and kind of communicating across all fronts for the union. With that said, I played probably more video games in my day than I care to admit. And even when I was much younger, before I even started working with the union, I grew up in a union family. And I always recognized that the IATSE logo would show up at the end of the credits in movies, and I would always ask around why wasn't that happening in games. So now I'm excited to be in a position to do something about that, and hopefully all the people here are too.
Oh man, the IA logo and a games credit would be so cool. Long for that day.
I can see it.
Yeah. Well, welcome, Jonas. Welcome, Marissa. So glad to have you. Today, what we're talking about, mainly the topic is solidarity. But we're kind of revisiting what happened over this past weekend and what will continue to happen in the months ahead in terms of negotiating the basic agreement and the area standards agreement. So, Jonas, maybe you could talk about what the rally was for this past weekend.
Sure, and we're throwing around like a lot of contract names too, and we'll get to that in a second.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so we're going to negotiate a few contracts coming up, but in the film and TV business last year there were actors and writers guild strikes that kind of really affected employment in the industry overall, and I know game workers are also dealing with layoffs as well. But we thought that we needed a kind of energizing kind of experience as we go into this, something that gives folks hope, something that kind of flexes our muscles a little bit, and just gets a lot of people together. So a day before we went into negotiations with the Hollywood studios on a variety of contracts, we hosted this rally, and way more people showed up than we had actually anticipated, which is great. The day started very early, and before the rally it had rained in LA, and the area we had it was prone to flooding. But live events and production is what we do, and we adjusted the plan, we communicated with everybody, and we had really good turnout. The Teamsters were there, and their general president, Sean O'Brien, spoke. Lindsay Doherty, who's kind of a force in the Hollywood labor movement now, as well as our international president, Matt Loeb, and our international vice president, Mike Miller, as well as a variety of California politicians and labor representatives of allied entertainment unions. It was a really, really great event. We had over 1,000 people concurrently tuned into that live stream. We streamed it on YouTube, not on Twitch. Kind of came together at the last minute there. But it really drove a lot of momentum in going into those talks.
Yeah, I'm gonna try this screen share and see if it works. But oh cool, Marissa, you disappeared. All right, you're okay. You're okay. It's not your fault. Check. Every time you're here in not even in audio. Great. All right, maybe we won't do this. I was gonna share a video.
I don't mind disappearing.
I think I have to copy the audio capture. Okay, hold on. Okay. All right, here we go. All right, I'm gonna pause the music real quick. Marissa, we can hear you, but we can't see you. You are a ghost. I'm learning so much about Twitch every week. Jonas, you're live, but let's play a short clip, which I think is one of the most poignant moments from the rally.
That the work done by the Hollywood unions last year and your solidarity last year will lead the way for an easier contract this year. But if it doesn't, the entire labor movement in California will stand with you, and we will ensure that every day we are there to support you. And we will tell the motion picture industry, Mike Miller already said it, so now it's going to be a chant. Fuck around, find out. Fuck around. Fuck around.
Fuck around, find out.
Fuck around. All right.
Yeah, look at all those people there.
This year. Thank you, brothers and sisters.
There's so many people there. Marissa, you were there in spirit.
I was watching, and I was watching that morning, and yeah.
That was that was Lorena Gonzalez, right, Jonas? Who said "fuck around, find out"?
It was, yeah.
But yeah, I assume being there, the feeling was electric. But that's kicking off the negotiations between the IATSE and the Teamsters with the AMPTP. Can you, elaborating a bit on what the Teamsters are. So the Teamsters union encompasses mostly like the truck drivers that move people and set items from place to place, right?
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about very old unions here, and their logo continues to be like a horse and a wheel, like two horses and a wheel, and they were around in the horse and buggy days, pre-automobiles. They drive the trucks. They also represent like location managers and things like that. So it's a lot of logistics. There's other unions that were there, the laborers, the plumbers, folks who work in these studios. But you mentioned an acronym, the AMPTP, and something that's interesting about the way that we negotiate with the studios, the Hollywood studios, is we kind of negotiate with them all at the same time, right? So in the room, you have Amazon, Disney, Warner Brothers. They all are covered by this one agreement, and they all get the same deal. So they can't, they all have the same minimums, and they all kind of have to adhere generally to the same rules. And so, in games, when we talk about what we can do with contracts, I think this is a very unique thing in the American labor movement. Other countries have this, though. I would say UAW and the auto workers are similar. But they all kind of get the same deal, and that sets minimums and standardizes things for everybody, which means when you move from job to job, right, there's less onboarding. You don't need new benefits, for example. A lot of things that actually speed up the process and make it more efficient. So it's a unique kind of thing, but we do negotiate with this trade group that represents them all as a group, and something in games like that, you could foresee with some of the larger studios maybe down the road.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, we were throwing around a lot of acronyms there.
In the chat, if you hear an acronym or word that you don't know, just ask, because this is always acronym land.
Yeah, I think before I started working with the IATSE, acronyms were not so much a part of my life as they are now. But yeah, so ultimately, like, the slogan from that rally was "Many Crafts, One Fight." So it's about coming together. And the WGA, the Writers Guild, and the Actors Guild, the Screen Actors Guild, they were also there in support because we were on picket lines with them over the summer too. And that solidarity, helped a lot in their negotiations. So, they've got our backs if, God forbid, it comes to it. But, they've also got our backs in terms of supporting us through this negotiation process. So, power in numbers, right? And that's what collective action is all about. It's coming together collectively as a force to be reckoned with, because if it's just one, it's one fight, but there's many crafts, right? So, but also, Marissa, you're with the Animation Guild, which is a local of the IATSE, but your negotiations are coming up later in the summer, right?
Yes.
How has it been?
At the end of...
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say end of July, I believe, is
Right
when
on.
it expires.
How has membership within your local felt about upcoming negotiations for your contract?
Well, we have about 6,000 plus members, so I can't speak for all of them, but kind of the vibe I've been getting is, it's going to be a very important negotiation year for us. There's a lot of things on the line that we share with other, locals, including like IA, here's the acronym land, AI, threats of AI, a lack of work, honestly, work being sent overseas. So it's going to be a pretty important year for us to make some strong wins in our contract. And I think I can say that pretty fairly. Everyone's ready to make some very strong wins. Obviously, a strike is the last resort, but we're doing everything we can to make sure everyone is really informed on the issues we're dealing with, and what it would take if it came to a strike, making sure everyone fully understands the sacrifice that is, and yeah, that's all I can really say is, like, it's important.
Right.
And everyone is on the same page. We all know this is a very important year for for our industry.
Yeah, I think that also kind of speaks to how participatory being in a union is. You're not kicking back your feet and saying, "Oh, I'll let the union take care of it." You need to make your voice heard. And Marissa, you're extremely active in your union. Sorry, go ahead, Jonas.
If you let the union handle it, I mean, you are the union. Like, it's still you, even if you say that, right? So I think people can forget that, but a strong organizing union that is one that where everybody is not only included but participates. And there's lots of ways to participate, including just reading along, following them. If you're here, you're participating, really. It's kind of, don't be a card holder, be a member, and be an active member. I send a lot of bulk emails and stuff all the time, and sometimes we can't get a hold of people. But when folks are excited, they want to stand together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a really exciting time for all of us to be involved with our unions and to make our voices heard, because it matters so much more than it has in like recent years. So much has changed about our industries, and I think that also translates over to games. Like, so much has changed about the games industry, even in just the last 365 days. And that's ultimately what we're going to be talking about at GDC this year, is like, now is the time. Even though folks are laid off, even though we're going through a rough spot, the industry isn't folding. We're not going to stop making games. We're going to keep making games because they make 10 times more than the motion picture industry. We're going to keep making games. It's a cash cow. It's not going away. So even though we're in a rough spot right now, we shouldn't withhold our ability to form unions and collectively act as a group. Because that's super important. If we get this now, then we could be protected in the future, Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about the basic negotiations, which are separate from the rally, right? So the rally was for gearing up to negotiate health insurance and retirement benefits for the AMPTP. Oh my God, not for them. For the IA and the Teamsters. But after that, the IA is going into basic negotiations. Maybe you could talk a little bit more, Jonas, about what exactly basic negotiations means, and how that applies for all of the locals within the IA.
Sure. And I'm going to communicate that, like, this is probably more complicated than it should be. There are more than one contract in this industry, and then in some cases you have even on one workplace you have people under many contracts. An initial slogan that we had for the campaign was not only many crafts one fight, it was many crafts, many contracts, one fight, which is getting used in a bit to communicate this complexity. But the reason that the rally was for benefits was so that it could be more inclusive of the other unions who share those benefit plans with us and are under those benefits. So this year there are those benefit negotiations, which are kind of separate because they include the other unions. We started with those on Monday. And then on Tuesday, we moved to what's called the Hollywood Basic negotiations. The Hollywood Basic Agreement is an extremely old contract that dates all the way back to like the 1920s. So it's coming up on 100 years of this contract existing.
Wow.
It covers about 50,000 film and TV workers across 13 different local unions in primarily the Los Angeles area. And it covers your props, your camera, it includes the Cinematographers Guild, it includes the Editors Guild, for example. For some reason, it does not include the Animation Guild, but you all negotiate your own contracts and do a pretty good job at it. So,
I hope so.
Yeah. But a lot of the issues are similar. There's another contract that will be up later in this process called the Area Standards, which was only really started in the 90s because productions were kind of leaving Los Angeles and were going to other places. And if you follow Marvel, for example, a lot of their content has been filmed in Georgia, which is a new big production hub. But that covers everywhere else. It was also mentioned before, Marissa, I think you said that your contract expired on the 31st. All of the contracts we're talking about today expire on July 31st. So that is kind of a little less than 5 months away. But there's a lot of time to talk about these, and we're starting early for a reason. And that is to work through these issues and hopefully, the negotiators on the other side of the table are receptive to those issues, and they have time and money to be, frankly. So I guess that's kind of the lay of the land there. What else did I miss?
You're the expert on
Probably,
that, Jonas.
probably I am not. This has kind of been a long time coming, but yeah, we negotiate with these studios as a group. It is a very unique situation in the labor movement, but it comes from having a lot of organizing power and, frankly, just being the best skilled folks in the world at doing this. And we are, everybody who do these jobs, including game workers, really do make magic happen and kind of like MacGyver crazy stuff, and that entertains billions of people all over the world. And it turns out when you get a lot of those people together, it's a really powerful thing.
Yeah, whenever I think about the amount of work and time that goes into a video game, I'm always just blown away that anyone was able to get it done. Because it's always it's just so much. It's just so much work that goes into one game, and I think people kind of, and I feel like it's a very similar thing for things like animation, and for film and television, the amount of work that goes into it behind the scenes, because ultimately what everyone sees on the other side of it is the beautiful finished product. They don't see the hours spent, the people, the amount of people that worked on something just to do like one tiny little thing. Like, it's a lot to ask for just one thing. Stussy 5150 in the chat. Love to see you here again. You're talking about the videotape agreement. I don't know what that is. Have you heard of that, Jonas?
Yeah, it's essentially, this cycle, the talks regarding that are bundled into the basic agreement negotiations. It's kind of, it literally is, it's not just the videotape agreement, it's literally called like the videotape electronic supplemental agreement. And this existed at first to cover work that wasn't originally covered by it. And actually, this is a very good example of how unions addressing new technology or trying to, right? Getting your foot in the door. It really is. It is another contract being negotiated, but it's this cycle. The talks are happening concurrently on days that the basic is negotiated. The videotape things are being discussed as well. But I think in that case, a lot of the videotape agreement provisions are just a bit different, or maybe pay scales a bit lower, just compared to the full basic, and that is, I think, an issue that folks are trying to address.
Yeah. What is negotiations for tag coming up look like? Is that separate from like what ultimately people are trying to achieve with the basic? So like, y'all have your animation guild basic, but then you also have separate individual contracts that operate per studio, right?
It depends. Yeah, there's a couple of separate ones. Like Nickelodeon has its own. We kind of work with, I guess, the AMPTP version, which is, I'd have to look at the list. Like, Disney, DreamWorks, Paramount. There's a lot, but there's definitely a couple that bargain separately. And I think Nickelodeon just got their last contract ratified,
Finally.
which was a pretty big deal because it took a very long time. So yeah, they have their own bargaining units essentially per studio if they're separate. But our main big negotiations are with those major studios, and that's kind of the bargaining unit we're ramping up for, I suppose, right now. But yeah, there are definitely a couple of studios that are not lumped into that big multi-headed beast.
So those individual studios, like, they have to renegotiate contracts separately from like the big,
the
like,
the main head honchos, yeah.
yeah. So like there's the Titmouse New York agreement. I think, does Titmouse LA have a separate agreement too?
That
Titmouse
is a
Vancouver
great.
definitely does.
I don't think so. You know what? Don't quote me on that. I don't think so.
The list
I
is
should look.
expansive. Yeah,
It's
so
a
there's
pretty
like a
big
few
list.
exceptions, right?
Yeah.
But it's mainly because like the production house is not a part of the AMPTP. Is that why they're separated?
I think yes. I think they have to agree to kind of work together and basically be represented by these other people, like, which kind of makes it complicated. Again, I'm learning a lot. This is my first year on the e-board, and even in, I am a fairly new union member, to be honest. Like, in 2019 is when I joined. But yeah, it's like a collection of studios that decided to be represented by these people, the AMPTP, and it makes things really confusing. I think even with the actors and the writers last year, like some of the, you know, heads of these studios wound up just coming into the negotiations themselves, talking for themselves, which is just like, why are we even dealing with this middleman? Like, it's kind of weird. So yeah, some
Yeah.
studios decide they don't want to be represented by those people, or they want to negotiate things separately on their, you know, per specific studio.
Wow.
I hope that wasn't too. I mean, it's confusing, but I hope I made sense.
Yeah, no, that made a lot of sense to me.
Okay.
Frog Potion, glad to see you, says Nick workers got a lot of gains, including adding production workers into the agreement. Fantastic.
So awesome. Long deserved.
Yeah. You know, and the great thing for a game workers union is that you know, we can include folks who are like production assistants and production coordinators in our bargaining units from the get-go, so they don't have to negotiate separately or get added in later. Like the production workers at Titmouse in Los Angeles ultimately had to form a separate bargaining unit and write their own contract based on what the Titmouse Los Angeles group had won. But again, like, we have strength in numbers, we have strength together, so like the more people we have as a part of our effort, the better. Which again is like going back to that rally with the thousands of people. Well, thousands? I don't know, hundreds.
Thousands is correct.
Okay, great.
Wow.
I don't want to overinflate, but yeah, the thousands of people who came to that rally across multiple crafts and also multiple unions. There's some very silly Banjo Kazooie music playing right now, and it's making me a little insane, so I'm just gonna skip it. And there was a stream party in Chicago and Philly. Was there really? That's awesome, Stussy. Did you get to go to one of those? Sorry, go ahead,
We wanted
Jonas.
to make sure that folks around the country could participate because this is a national movement. But, you know, we also, it's hard to throw a rally, you know, in Chicago and Philly when everybody's in LA for the talks. So, you know, here we are streaming on Twitch. You know, live streaming is something we're trying to do more of. And you know, I'm excited to be on this stream for the first time. And that stream, I think, was a success as well. It helps people participate who couldn't be there, and then it's recorded, so then you can just watch it later if you couldn't make it at that time. Yeah, the one in Atlanta fell through, but yeah, it was available so folks could watch it individually. I imagine it was a good moment for some of those speeches when some folks went a bit off script there, but that's okay. Yeah, I was getting some questions on the fuck around find out portion. Like, is that the comms message? I was like, no, but it's good.
It's
Like, let it
powerful.
go.
It's pretty powerful.
Right. You know, that is the emotion, though, right? It is. We have reasonable issues, and if those don't address, like you know, we're not going to stand for it, right? And that's really what it is. A lot of folks are thinking, people will say, oh, the union could make you strike. No, it's if we don't bring, the negotiating committee doesn't bring a good deal to the workers, they're not going to accept it. And the good thing is, right, is that you don't have to, right, is that you actually have another option. You're by yourself and you just ask for a raise and you get told no. I mean, yeah, you could quit, but does that change things for everybody? Yeah.
Yeah, and also, talking about that kind of like mentality of like, well, if it sucks here, I'll just leave and go somewhere else. You're gambling on it, not sucking there. Ultimately, you leave and you go somewhere else, and you still lack that power to negotiate for the things that matter to you. But if you're going from a union shop to another union shop, you know that you ultimately can negotiate with your employer to improve your working conditions across studios so that wherever you go, that's the standard, is the quality of life that you've grown accustomed to at that one place of work, that translates to others, which is, things like healthcare, retirement benefits, wage floors, meaning it's basically standardizing what you could be paid for a certain job. I've heard a lot of people lately coming to me with the idea that that a union places caps on salaries, which is not true whatsoever. Ask for $1 million, and if they give you $1 million, that's awesome. Happy for you. But what we're saying is that your boss cannot pay you any less than this amount to do what you do, which ultimately helps everyone in the industry, because pay can vary wildly when you're negotiating individually. Frog Potion says, negotiations deal with systemic problems in a company and across industry. The union forms a negotiation committee from the rank and file themselves, yes, that do the groundwork and research about what you as an employee care about, and all the workers get to vote on if they like the contract or not. It's better democracy than our government. Very true. Very true. Yeah. I served on the negotiating committee for Titmouse in New York, and we weren't joining the negotiating committee to fight for individual interests, meaning I wasn't there for myself. I was there to represent the people at my company, and have their best interests addressed in our contract. It's not a matter of me being pissed off about a single thing. Because ultimately, some things that I was really adamant about didn't end up happening because the majority of us did not agree on it. And that's okay. That means that I'm in the minority, and I accept that my ideals were not everyone's. But that's what negotiations committees are for. They're representatives from the working class who enact the will of the people that the contract is affected by. So it's not like a bunch of suits sitting in a room making decisions for you.
And
even though I had to put on a suit. I changed out of it so quick.
What makes you look powerful? You dress for success. I was gonna add on in the Animation Guild, before these negotiation committees are made, we have craft town halls. So even if you're not on the negotiations committee, like in the room making the deals and the contracts, you get to participate if you show up to those town halls and you raise your concern, and other people can like second, third, give that extra support. It's just a way for any member is really involved in this and should be involved in this. And if they don't show up, we won't know what's bothering them. So yeah, it's been really, really interesting to watch and see all the ways that their concerns cross over in between crafts and even in between locals. It happens quite a bit, and that's where solidarity is important.
Yeah, this is the participation part, right? It doesn't have to be 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, but if you're available for a committee meeting, join it. If you're available to fill out a survey to let your union know what you want to see in your upcoming contract, take the time, fill out your survey. If you're ultimately not doing those things, then your voice isn't being heard, and you might not see those things reflected in your contract. But yeah, I love the craft, the individual committee meetings at the Animation Guild, because it really gives people an opportunity within specific job titles to voice their concerns that affect them on like doing their specific job. Not every single job within an industry, which I think also games folks can relate to, like not every single job is one for one, like especially between programmers and artists. The things that programmers like might be very different from what an artist likes or dislikes about a company. So making sure that we're encompassing everything is super important. Gearing up for the basic, Jonas, like we did a bunch of surveys, did we not?
We did, and also, it's kind of a unique situation where, if you're the actors or the Writers Guild, they don't really have these like local unions, and you could think of them almost as your local government, where like from your town, right? You could go to the meeting in your town and you interface with them that way, and then at least for us, it's kind of a federated structure where the international kind of talks to the locals, for example. So the international ran one directly, kind of almost like census style. It's like the federal thing. And then a lot of the locals ran their own as well, because what we found is those like local representatives do, they come from the same jobs that you do. I mean, I guess Marissa, you're an animator, right? The representatives are the people who do that job, so they get it, and they are able to pinpoint exactly what the craft specific issues are in a way that even the most trained and smartest like person coming out of school could think of, because they just haven't done it. They haven't lived that experience. So there were surveys on multiple levels, but that's not the only way that I think feedback is gathered through these situations. There's town halls, there's meetings, one-on-one conversations, even. Those are all summed up digital communications, and even something as simple as like the contact, with your priority box on a website. All of it adds up into research that these negotiating committees do, and they package it all together to negotiate with. So it's not, there's no one end all be all. It's collected through a variety of ways, and so the good news is that there's a lot of places and opportunities to participate.
Absolutely. Stussy 5150 says there was the IA and individual surveys. A lot of locals started contract action teams for these negotiations. Yeah, and I think that also just speaks to how important it is when we renegotiate every 3 years, that we get as many people involved as we can, because we ultimately, again, have strength in numbers. So the more people that are activated and active during a contract negotiation, the more power you have to win the things that matter. If whoever you're on the other side of the table from can see that the folks that you've got on your side are just like they don't care, then what are they going to give away? What are they going to really agree to? They'll agree to keep the status quo. But will they give away things like better retirement, better pay, a wage increase on a bigger scale? That's why we band together, and that's why, again, at the rally, like, and what we're doing for joining with the Teamsters to negotiate for better healthcare and retirement plans, is so meaningful. That's solidarity. You know, that's workers coming together to support other workers. That's people supporting other people in the face of billionaires to say we're sick and tired of being sick and tired. To win more and make our working lives better. Yeah, I feel like I've said a lot. Yeah, go ahead, Marissa. You want to add something?
Oh, I was gonna say, like, that's why it's so important when you see like the voter turnouts for, ratifying contracts and stuff, or strike authorization. Like, if you see, like, oh my God, like 90% voted on this, they are ready to throw down.
Yeah.
Like, or, even if they just ratified the contract, it's like that is an engaged membership. That is not something to mess with. Like, it's noticed. And any kind of, solidarity on, at these rallies or at the picket lines, like when WGA and SAG was striking, like they, the employers notice, like that is powerful stuff. And I just keep thinking that when I'm on social media or LinkedIn and I see everything coming from all these game devs, like it already feels like the action is collective coming from game devs. It feels like what I'm seeing is a huge amount of people all agreeing that this is like not okay. So I'm like, if the collective action is already there, let's go. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know, like it's an unstoppable force if we all realize what we can do when we come together.
We've got the motivation. We need
Mm-hmm.
the organization. We need to get organized. We need to come together collectively, as opposed to operating in individual silos, because that will ultimately achieve our goal, which is, again, a national game worker union. Glad to have you here, David Ayer, on the air. I see so many SAG folks come into the chat, and I'm so glad to see you all here. Again, solidarity is strong.
Yeah.
Could I say something on
Yeah.
this real quick?
Mm-hmm.
So and this is, I think, interesting because we talk about game worker unions. There are SAG-AFTRA, for example, has a contract for voice acting and performances. Those are game workers too, right? And they have a union. A union's good for them. They have an agreement, and they I think have been working on that contract for a while. If it hasn't been finalized, it wasn't in recent months. I only know my union, so I can't speak for anybody else. It would be interesting, to talk to them and get their perspective on that. And we actually we were looking around because I'm overworked too, but we were hiring another communications person, and we hired someone who worked on that unionizing campaign, and talking about unique issues of voice actors for video games, like the ridiculous death screams and them needing to rest their vocal cords. I mean, that is as specific as it gets, really. But things like the rally, things like the strike, people talk to each other, and we all love technology and are able to communicate through it. But I think the power of one-on-one conversations and bringing people together in the same space, and it happens in all kinds of unexpected ways and places. And when we go to GDC, that'll be another example of that. But you start to have conversations with people who, I mean, maybe none of us have dealt with yelling until their vocal cords hurt for a performance like that, or I haven't at least. But I've dealt with other craft specific things in my job that may be similar. I can empathize with that, right? And I think that's really the name of the game here. So, David, glad to see SAG-AFTRA in the chat. I think it'd be interesting if we, in a future time, try to have some people, some of SAG-AFTRA's game members on a stream like this. That'd be fun.
I
That'd be
would
awesome.
love that.
Write that
David,
down.
hit me up. Hit me up, David. So we got to wrap up. I'm sorry to do it. Because it was so awesome having you both here. Y'all were fantastic guests. And Jonas, please come back anytime. Any parting thoughts, Marissa?
My only parting thoughts are I kind of connected to what Jonas just said. Like, I think that the entertainment unions also has a lot of like crossover with games as is. So I think there's a lot of solidarity there. Like animation guild workers, I see them come from games and hop back into games. Like we get it. We do a lot of the same things. Like I really think the only reason I was elected as an executive board member for TAG was because I talked about my experience in games and how it needs to change for them. And so if people in the animation industry elected me vouching for you, like the solidarity is there. So I'm just really excited to get to see this happen, and I know it's close. So yeah, solidarity with games and with the IATSE, of course.
Hell yeah, Marissa. Jonas, you want to add any parting thoughts?
No, I feel like I've talked a lot, and Marissa, I think you summed up what I would have said. Other than I don't know if this, I guess we do have to go, but I'll be back.
Sick. Hell yeah.
Nice.
I'm just gonna do some shameless promotion, not of the self kind, because I want y'all to come and meet everybody who's on our team. Jonas will be there when we're at GDC. Marissa might be there. I fingers crossed hope Marissa can be there. But we're going to have our GDC panel on Wednesday, 3:30 in room 301. So excited. Please, I want the room packed. Let's fill it. I'm so excited about it. I think a lot of people are also excited about it. You can use our hashtags, hashtag IATSE GDC 2024. Also, if you go to our Twitter, we just released a press statement today that has all of the information about all of the things we're doing at GDC, which include our panel. We're also going to have a party on Thursday night. And we're going to have our booth Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. But also, we'll be walking the floor Monday and Tuesday. So if you see us in our gameworkers shirts, they look like the big controller. They say gameworkers.org on them. Stop us. Say hi. We are there to talk to you. We're there to answer your questions. We're there to help. But we'll hopefully see you there. And if you can't make it, totally cool. The panel will be streamed in the GDC Vault afterwards, but also we're going to try to host it on our own, and we will be streaming live from the floor on that Thursday. Same time, same place on this channel. So if you can't make it to GDC, tune in that day. You'll see all of our shining faces there live at the floor, and it'll be fantastic. I hope everybody has a wonderful week. We're going to end it on this Donkey Kong song, which is wild. David Ayer on the air, please hit me up, and we'll see you all again next week. Bye.
Bye.